Well, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight to this auspicious occasion, what we're calling the ACRS PhD Invitational. We were trying to come up with a good name, and I think I was scanning Foxtel, and I think there was a golf tournament on, and they were talking about an invitational, so I thought, well, that's as good a name as any. And we're honouring our friend, the late, great Dr Prasannah Prabhakharan. This is a collaboration between ACRS and the University of New South Wales, whose facilities that we're at. My name is Mick Timms. I'm the chair of the New South Wales chapter of ACRS, and certainly we, the Prasannah's academic and road safety colleagues, are pleased to be joined tonight, importantly, by the Prabhakharan family. So can we please have a round of applause? And many of whom have travelled vast distances to be here, Auckland and Perth, to be here. So that's just fantastic that you've been here tonight, and we can spend some time with you, because we're certainly proud and pleased to have Prasannah with us. First of all, ACRS acknowledges country and pay respects to First Nations peoples in Australia and the Maori in New Zealand. We do note that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are nearly 3 times more likely to die in road crashes than other Australians, and are disproportionately represented in passenger and pedestrian fatalities. This is an important event for ACRS. In attendance tonight we have our ACRS President and ACRS Fellow, Professor Anne Williamson. Thank you, Madam President. And we also have our ACRS CEO, Dr Ingrid Johnston, here. I'd also acknowledge ACRS Fellow Dr John Crozier, who is here tonight. And we have some apologies from Peter Fraser, one of our fellows, Professor Mike Regan, is a good friend of Prasannah. Mike's in Greece at the moment, unfortunately can't be here. And our other ACRS chapter member, David McTiernan, is unfortunately in Melbourne, and he's also unable to be here. So tonight we'll hear from 4 PhD candidates who'll speak about their research projects. That'll be followed by a number of special tributes to Prasannah and a response from the family. And after that, you've already seen there's some refreshments outside, so we hope you all enjoy the night. It's a bit awkward without a podium. So we're all devastated by the loss of Prasannah. ACRS New South Wales chapter has thought long and hard about the best way in which we should honour him. Professor Mike Regan said, "We've lost prematurely a colleague upon whose shoulders the next generation of road safety professionals would have stood." So what better way to honour Prasannah than to invite the next generation of road safety researchers to come and tell us about their work. So welcome to the PhD Invitational. Prasannah was a Star Wars fanatic, so I've got a few little selected quotes. I'm not sure if Yoda was one of his mentors or not, but we'll just claim him for the night. So we'll kick off. Greg Casey, when you make your way over to the podium, and then we'll have Lyndall Cook, Caitlin Reeves and Anvay Parab to go through and tell us about their work. You may as well stick that on, and there's your clicker, and we're in business. Now, Greg, like myself, is a former police officer, so don't be too hard on him or me. It's not been a good week for former police officers.
Thanks, Mick. Some time ago, a truck driver said to me that when he's with a group of people, he'll often ask them to look around the room and try to identify something that at some stage of its life hasn't been on a truck. And he said people can't find anything. And if you think about that now, the room we're in, the chairs we're sitting on, the carpet under our feet, the building we're in, the concrete and the timber that's been used to build it, it's all at some stage of its life been on a truck. I'd never really thought about truck driving that way before, but it explains why every night of the week our highways are lit up by thousands of trucks, because they're bringing us everything we need. So what happens in the transport industry affects all of us, because we are all end users of the road transport product. I knew from a policing career that truck driving was a dangerous job. But there are many well-intentioned laws in place that aim to make things safer for truck drivers and those they share the road with. Yet still, estimations are that 1 in 3 fatal truck crashes in Australia involves fatigue. So after more than 30 years dedicated trying to reduce that statistic, I couldn't escape a burning question. Are there barriers at the street level that inhibit truck drivers' capacity to comply with good fatigue management practices? And if so, what are they? The idea of doing a PhD certainly wasn't at the forefront of my mind when I retired, but I still have a strong passion for road safety, and more particularly, truck safety. So encouraged by an academic himself who was a former cop, I started my PhD journey. At the beginning, I felt like I was standing on a precipice on one side of a valley, looking across at my goal on the other side. And at times I was frightened by the thought that then, as a 56-year-old, I was an old dog and a PhD was a new trick. But I pushed on regardless, rushing down into that valley, trying not to trip over things like early candidature plans, confirmation of candidature, ethics approval and the collection of all my data. And as I stood at the bottom of that valley, I realised that to get back up to that ledge on the other side, I needed to sort all that data into the scaffolding required to help me get back to the top. Or in other words, I had to turn it into a PhD thesis. Because I'm someone who likes to measure my progress, I'd already decided to do my PhD by publication. Because as I worked through the 4 required papers, I could look back to see how far I'd come and work out how much I still had in front of me. At the moment, I've had 2 papers published. The 3rd one is under review, and I'm planning on submitting the 4th one by the end of this month. So I feel like I'm about halfway back up that valley. And while I haven't got time here to discuss all of the findings, I thought I'd share the main points from each one. First up, I wanted to find out if there was anything stopping truck drivers from resting during their journey. So I went out to truck stops at Tarcutta and Narrandera in southwest New South Wales, and over 10 days and nights unobtrusively observed what was going on. Now the great news is that most drivers had at least 15 minutes rest, but there was still around 45% of drivers who didn't. And the data supported 4 distinct findings. But the main one was that differing load types affect truck drivers' rest stop behaviour. For example, drivers of refrigerated loads generally had less rest time than others. Livestock drivers interrupted their rest time so they could tend to the welfare of their stock. And drivers of oversized loads rested for longer at night because of their restricted operating hours. Additionally, I found that other factors such as changeovers or shuttle runs, the availability of parking space, and drivers who worked on their truck or their load while they were stopped at the rest area were also influenced by the amount of rest they got when they stopped. For the next part of my study, I wanted to get the perspective of those who deal with truck driver fatigue laws every day. So that's police and transport regulators, transport managers, and of course truck drivers. So I conducted a series of semi-structured interviews, and this formed the content of the subsequent 3 papers. The main theme to emerge from the interviews with police and transport regulators, specifically for the police, was that a lack of foundational training regarding fatigue and fatigue laws limits police officers' practice knowledge regarding truck driver fatigue. And because of this lack of practice knowledge, the confidence they need is undermined, and because of that, the likelihood they'll enforce truck driver fatigue is reduced. Police officers need to present themselves as knowledgeable and confident, because confidence and decisiveness can help them maintain control of many of the situations they face. But if they don't know something, they'd rather not go there, because this helps them to maintain a professional facade while avoiding being shamed for their lack of knowledge in front of colleagues or their supervisors or a truck driver. Given the lack of foundational training available, police were largely left to their own devices to learn about fatigue. But any self-learning was only likely to occur if they were working with similarly motivated colleagues. The interviews with truck drivers and transport managers resulted in 780 pages of interview data. So between my supervisors and I, we decided to split the data into two papers, one focusing on workplace factors that influence their responses to fatigue and fatigue laws, and the other focusing on personal factors that have the same effect. One of the main workplace issues they spoke of was the lack of training they receive when they enter the industry. Under the current system, drivers learn how to drive a truck. But if they only work standard hours, there's nothing mandated requiring them to learn about how to manage their fatigue or their compliance with very complex fatigue laws. So unless they're working for a larger company that might offer some kind of fatigue training, they're left, like the police, to engage in a self-learning process. But participants recognise the inherent risks of learning from other truck drivers, or worse, from social media, because of a tendency for the information they get from these sources to be wildly inaccurate. And this can set their entire careers off on the wrong foot. Of the personal issues they raised, participants described how there were so many factors that you can't control, and managing family issues was one of the biggest influences on how they responded to fatigue and fatigue laws. One participant described how when his kids disrupted his sleep at home, he arrived at work already fatigued. Yet despite knowing he wasn't right to drive, he still showed up for work, still started the truck, and still drove out the gate. Yet when pre-shift fatigue like that occurs, fatigued drivers can still remain compliant with prescriptive work and rest hours because the definition of rest only requires that they disengage from any activity involving a truck with a GVM of 12 tonnes or greater. It doesn't mean that periods of recuperative rest have actually occurred. When personal issues arise while truck drivers are away from home, they often can't rest or sleep while these issues are on their mind. Emotional pressures from partners or family can exacerbate their stress and anxiety, and this can increase their desire to hurry to get home so they can try and fix things up. And they do this by pushing hard, which in one case meant driving 20 hours straight to get home for a child's school presentation. Overall, the responses suggest that drivers may prioritise nurturing family or personal relationships over the risk of a fatigue-related crash or being fined for breaching fatigue laws. Now, for brevity, I've left a lot out of this discussion, but I'm happy to chat to you about it with you and send you a copy of the published papers if you want more detail. There's clearly much more I need to do, including finishing the final paper and then tying all four of them together with an overarching statement for my final PhD thesis. But in answer to that burning question of mine, I'm finding, yes, I'm discovering that there are barriers that police and truck drivers experience when they're out on the street that inhibit enforcement and compliance with good fatigue management practices. Finally, I feel so privileged to have been asked here today to honour Prasannah's memory and his commitment to road safety. Despite my own passion for road safety, his enthusiasm enhanced my own. And while I've left my run through my PhD valley much later in my life than Prasannah did in his, I feel I'm getting closer to that cliff top on the other side. There are many things I'm looking forward to when I finish, but one thing I'm definitely looking forward to, hopefully by this time next year, is to stand amongst you as someone who's comprehensively disproved that old saying about old dogs and new tricks. Thank you.
Thank you. You make me feel young. Thank you. I always think I'm really old to be doing a PhD. So stand in the little box. Yeah. Okay, I'm really pleased to be able to present to you on a critical area of road safety that is under-researched until very recently, the safe transportation of children with disabilities and medical conditions in motor vehicles. So through this work, we hope to fill some gaps in knowledge and provide evidence to support safe travel for these vulnerable population of children. Now, I want you to imagine that you are driving down the road your children, they've been secured safely in the back seat, in their child restraint, in their seatbelt. You glance in the rearview mirror and you see that your child's fallen from their restraint, or that they've unbuckled their seatbelt and they're no longer protected. For over 300,000 parents in Australia, this is not a potential scenario. This can actually be a real life situation. So approximately 7.7% of children under the age of 15 in Australia have a disability or medical condition. And like all children, they need to be able to access the community safely. However, transporting children with disabilities presents several key unique challenges. Often children will have postural instability and parents need to pull over and reposition them regularly. They may require lower limb casts and cannot fit into standard child restraints. There may be disruptive behaviours, escaping from restraints, or even actually absconding from their vehicles. So despite these challenges, there is very little research into what caregivers and health professionals actually do to assist these children in their vehicles, and even less research on whether the modifications that they're using are safe. And this has led to my research, and I need the clicker. Okay, so to investigate real-world transportation of children with disabilities, we conducted 2 nationwide surveys in 2022. So capturing results from 40 caregivers and 47 health professionals working in this field, with children having a range of disabilities or medical conditions, we found that 95% of health professionals working in this area had modified the way a child was seated, while 22.5% of caregivers had modified restraints. So looking at this graph with the caregivers in orange and the health professionals in blue, we found, as indicated by the red squished arrows just a little bit there, that padding used as a postural support was the most frequently used modification by both of the surveyed populations. And specialty harnesses were the most commonly used accessory by health professionals. So with limited research on the effectiveness and given the high frequency of these modifications and accessories, we proceeded to undertake crash testing to investigate whether these were actually safe and what the implications were of these for the children. So our first investigation focused on the postural support padding. Drawing from our survey responses, we conducted 40 frontal crash tests using a Q1 anthropometric test device, which represents a 1-year-old child in a forward-facing restraint. Sensors were in the crash test dummy. They measured head and chest acceleration, chest deflection, and high-speed video footage was analysed for the dummy's kinematics. So we tested 3 padding types that are being used out in the real world. The first one was pure cotton terry toweling cloth nappies, frequently used within the hospital system, a medium density foam, readily available from retail stores, and expanded polystyrene, a rigid foam, which is recommended in the Australian standards. So padding was applied in various locations, including reclining the restraint, supporting the head, supporting the trunk or the pelvis, based on the information we got from the survey. So what did we find? Well, comparing injury outcome measures of the different types and locations of padding against the standard unmodified restraint, some padding did actually increase head injury metrics of the child, and this was mainly based on the location where the padding was placed. So wedge padding, commonly used under a restraint to increase the recline, particularly for children who have airway obstructions or head positioning issues, significantly raised head acceleration and head excursion. So if we look here at a trajectory comparison, so this is the head excursion of the dummy with no additional padding placed in the restraint. And the next one on the overlay is the head excursion of the dummy that has been reclined to help with airway and head positioning. So we can see that the increased forward trajectory of the head places the child at risk of any sort of contact in the vehicle. Multiple toweling padding, which is the picture on the top left, is often used to accommodate lower limb casts for children who wear hip spiker casts. This also raised head injury risks and chest acceleration due to positioning changes. Trunk padding, the picture at the top right, it actually is used for a lot of muscle weakness for children who have cerebral palsy or any type of neuromuscular condition, or also increased head excursion. Some padding types, including padding around the side of the head, which is the bottom picture, under the knees and in the crotch area, did not significantly increase injury risks, and we found that rigid, firm foam was the best at maintaining positioning of the child and maintaining injury risks. So from this research, we've been able to conclude that rigid foam padding, as recommended in the Australian standards, may safely provide postural support for children with disabilities. It is, however, not recommended to go behind their head or behind the child or to recline the restraint. So our second crash testing study has been focused on specialty harnesses. So these are accessory products that are often used to support the postural needs of children or prevent them from unbuckling or escaping from their restraint. So despite requirements that they be used with the vehicle seat, with this vehicle seat belt, our survey found that many parents are using these specialty harnesses with children on booster seats or by children who are too small to be on the vehicle seats. So we selected 6 different commonly used specialty harnesses for postural support and also for behavioural management, and we crash tested them with a 6-year-old in a booster seat and a 12-year-old or a hybrid 5th percentile female on a vehicle seat. We measured head, chest and neck acceleration as well as forces through the seatbelt. So the harnesses were grouped, which it can be a little bit hard to see because the labels are being cut off, the graphs. The harnesses have been grouped according to their interaction with the seatbelt. We had a harness that repositioned the seatbelt on the harness itself, which is represented in the dark blue. We had harnesses that convert the lap sash seatbelt to lap only, reflected in the light blue. And then we had harnesses which are fitted to the child and maintain the standard use of the lap sash seatbelt, reflected in the yellow. So our findings, so with research showing that head injuries and abdominal injuries are the most common and severe consequences of motor vehicle accidents, those are the 2 that I'm going to present to you today. So as we can see here, several harnesses, particularly the light blue ones, increase the risk of head injury, particularly when looking at head excursion. So the top graph is head excursion of the 6-year-old dummy on the booster seat, while the bottom graph is the older 12-year-old child sitting on the standard vehicle seat. So compared to our baseline, which was the child seated on the seat or the booster seat without any additional harness, we can see that harnesses, the light blue that converted the seatbelt to lap only, significantly increased head excursion and therefore risks to a child. You can see the increased forward head excursion also in these images. On the left, we have the baseline with the child in a lap sash seatbelt, and on the right, we have the child in a harness that converts to lap belt only. So we can see the greater movement of the head there. In contrast, the harnesses that maintained the seatbelt path, the ones in yellow, had similar head injury metrics to the baseline. So abdominal injuries are a significant concern and can occur with submarining. So that's when the occupant slides beneath the lap belt, causing it to shift away from the pelvis and press into the abdomen. Now, excessive femur excursion is a measure, and it can often happen and shift the pelvis and cause the lap belt to rise, resulting in submarining. So we've got femur excursion shown here with the 6-year-old at the top and the older child again at the bottom. And we can see that it was increased with harnesses that repositioned the seatbelt, the dark blue ones, and also with harnesses that converted the seatbelt to lap only, the light blue ones for the older child. Submarining was also observed on video analysis, and I've reflected the harnesses that resulted in submarining with the green arrows. I'm going to hope this video works for us. Yep. And the older child, yes please. So we can see that the pelvis has rotated under and the lap belt has moved up into the abdomen, putting the child at risk of serious abdominal injuries. So you can see that the 3 seatbelts, the 3 harnesses that maintained the seatbelt path, as we merge both the excursions, the head excursion and the femur excursion here on these graphs, you can see that it's the blue and the light blue that place the child at most risk. And unfortunately, these are some of the most commonly used harnesses in this population. So, despite technology not being my friend, I feel our research is really exciting. It's the first comprehensive documentation of real-world modification use of children with disabilities, and the first crash testing of the commonly used postural support padding, and the first testing to compare different types of specialty harnesses for this vulnerable population. So, thank you.
Awesome. Lovely.
Thank you, Caitlin.
So I'm going to talk about something a little bit different to that, another different area of research. We're going to talk about the attentional capture in mixed traffic environments. So what is that? So in the year to March 2025, there was 1,284 deaths on our roads. Our ultimate goal of 0 deaths and serious injuries on our roads is what we want. And one promising solution to that is autonomous vehicles. Autonomous vehicles, or AVs as they're commonly referred to, are vehicles with advanced technologies that can operate them by themselves under certain conditions in some capacity. They have the potential to fundamentally change road transportation as we know it, and are regarded as the ultimate solution for road crashes by reducing human input and subsequently human error, as well as having enhanced technology features that exceed human capability. They're proposed to have a range of benefits for society, not only by improving road safety, but by reducing traffic congestion, increasing mobility, and increasing productivity. So, AVs are an emerging technology in our automotive industry and can be broadly classified across 5 different automation capabilities. The introduction of AVs on our roads is going to be gradual, and current predictions suggest that our roads will be fully autonomous by around 2050. In the interim, we're going to have to navigate a mixed traffic environment. This is where there'll be differing levels of autonomous vehicles interacting with other road users, including human drivers, pedestrians, cyclists, and motorcyclists. A safe mixed traffic environment is critical. And as such, it's important to understand road users' perceptions and behaviours in this environment and how this is going to differ to our current human-to-human traffic environment. So majority of research conducted on autonomous vehicles so far has mainly focused on the driver of the autonomous vehicle. There's been an abundance of research investigating people's attitudes towards autonomous vehicles for themselves and investigating their driving behaviour when operating an autonomous vehicle. But currently, little is known about how other road users will respond to autonomous vehicles in the road environment. Despite suggestions that attitudes to autonomous vehicles differ for different road users. For example, pedestrians tend to view them more positively than, say, passengers. So some recent studies have begun to investigate the attitudes towards autonomous vehicles from other road users. But to our knowledge, no studies to date have investigated how the presence of autonomous vehicles in the driving environment, so a mixed traffic environment, will influence other drivers' behaviours, leading to the aim of my research. So one driving behaviour that may change with the presence of autonomous vehicles is gaze behaviour. So in the context of driving, that refers to how a driver's eyes move around and look at different visual stimuli in our world. This plays a significant role in ensuring safety, maintaining situational awareness, and performing driving tasks effectively. One key area that I'm going to focus on is fixations. So during a fixation, eyes are stationary and hold target visual stimuli in the field of vision, allowing for detailed visual information to be taken on. So during driving, this allows drivers to process crucial information about the road environment, so traffic signs, pedestrians, other vehicles, the road markings, and then adjust their behaviour in relation to those. So in my study, we aim to investigate how the fixation duration to other vehicles in different road environments in a simulated world differed based on the type of traffic environment they were navigating. Oh. So to participate in my study, we recruited 40 drivers that held valid Australian driver's licence from the University of Newcastle. They were reimbursed with course credit or a gift card. 14 of our participants had a provisional licence and 26 held an open licence. On average, they spent around 7 hours per week driving. So prior to our task, they were fitted with some eye tracking glasses to measure their fixations during the task. First things, they completed a practice drive. This took approximately 10 minutes, and this was essentially just so they could acclimate to the simulator and the controls. Following that, they completed the main drive. During this, they were randomly allocated to 2 conditions in a randomised order. The 2 conditions were related to the traffic environments that they would encounter. In the mixed traffic condition, participants were told that they would be encountering a mixture of autonomous vehicles and human-driven vehicles. They were also given a definition of what autonomous vehicles were. In the human traffic condition, they were told that they would be encountering all human-driven vehicles. During each condition, participants encountered 2 different types of road events in a city environment, either a pedestrian crossing or a right-hand turn. Both of these events had the same number of hazards and they were equally salient, so the only thing that was different was the type of event or the type of environment that they were told they were in. During the study, we also measured their trust towards these vehicles, but I am not going to talk about that today. So, using eye tracking software, I've manually mapped their fixations to corresponding areas of interest. This included things like hazards, the road, traffic control devices, driver's interface, and other vehicles. Of interest here was fixations towards other vehicles as well as the hazards. I then converted that to a percentage of their total time spent on the road, navigating that road event. And this is what we found. So on the left, in that left graph, I've got the results for the fixation duration towards the vehicles that they encountered. With this, we found a significant main effect of traffic environment, where we found that there was significantly higher duration, fixation duration towards vehicles in a mixed traffic environment compared to the human traffic environment. However, there was a significant interaction effect happening. So what that means is that the effect of traffic environment on our fixation differed depending on the type of road event. So these findings kind of suggest 2 things. The first is that navigating a mixed traffic environment can result in greater fixation on the vehicles than what we currently do in a human-to-human traffic environment. But it did depend on the type of road event. So while participants seemed to equally fixate on vehicles during a pedestrian crossing, the effect was much greater for the right-hand turn under a mixed traffic condition compared to the human traffic condition. Considering the right graph now, that's the results for the fixation duration towards the hazards in the environment. Here, we also had a significant main effect of the traffic environment, where there was significantly higher fixation towards hazards under a mixed traffic environment compared to a human-to-human traffic environment. There was also a significant main effect of the road event, where we had higher fixation towards hazards when navigating a pedestrian crossing compared to a right-hand turn at traffic lights. But as we can see, there was a significant interaction effect occurring that might explain those a little bit more clearly. So if we consider the mixed traffic condition, so over here, we can see that there was substantially less fixation duration to hazards when navigating the right-hand turn compared to the pedestrian crossing. Under the human traffic environment, however, there was equally high fixation duration to those hazards. These findings suggest that navigating a mixed traffic environment may differentially change drivers' attention allocation to hazards. These findings raise concerns around, where was that? Making sure I'm up to the, yep, there, cool. These findings raise concerns around the safety of introducing AVs, suggesting more attention may be allocated to vehicles and less to other hazards in the environment. So our novel study illustrates the third-party impact of autonomous vehicles on human drivers' gaze behaviour. It suggests that navigating a mixed traffic environment may change driver behaviour compared to current human-to-human traffic environments, and this may differ depending on the type of road event. By examining fixation duration in these environments, we can begin to understand how drivers may modify and adapt their attention and subsequently their situational awareness when sharing the road with autonomous vehicles. These findings can help inform the design of safer road systems and autonomous vehicle interactions, ensuring a smoother and safer transition to a mixed traffic future, so that the benefits of autonomous vehicles can be realised. Our next steps will involve investigating the factors that may account for this behaviour change, such as attitudes, trust, and other individual differences. Awesome, thank you. Oh, I'll get there. There you
Not that bad.
Quicker, so just stand in the
Yeah.
in the batter's box there.
All right.
So there you go.
All right.
Thanks, Anto.
Thank you. So hello everyone. Today I'll be discussing a very interesting and exciting area of research, which is motorcycle safety. But however, a critical aspect of motorcycle safety, which has often gone unnoticed, which is the interaction between the rider's pelvis and the motorcycle's fuel tank during a crash. So in recent years, despite major advances in car safety, progress in motorcycle crash protection has lagged behind. While some European manufacturers have been developing on-board and on-rider safety technologies, a key barrier in this is the limited understanding of physical interaction between the rider and the motorcycle during a crash. That is what happens during a crash. One important overlooked interaction is the interaction between the rider and the fuel tank, which is often the first point of contact in a crash and also a common source of pelvic injuries to the riders. This interaction and these injuries often involve an anterior-posterior force, and little to nothing is currently understood about how the pelvis responds during this loading condition. Therefore, studying the pelvis-fuel tank interaction is essential to advance our knowledge about how the pelvis responds in this type of loading, and also enable us to simulate rider kinematics in our simulated crashes, and eventually to reduce pelvic injuries to riders. So to address this issue, our study is divided into three definite aims. So the first phase is to characterize variation in pelvic orientation introduced by different motorcycle types. The second phase is to characterize dynamic behavior of the motorcycle fuel tank and its material properties. And the last phase is to use the outcomes of phase 1 and 2 to enhance existing virtual or physical pelvis surrogates that are currently used in motorcycle crash testing. Recently, we finished a crucial part of phase 1. The aim of this study was to characterize anatomical positioning of one male and one female rider across various motorcycle types to determine whether rider posture significantly differs between these types. Another key objective of the study was to collect essential motorcycle design data that would inform construction of a fully adjustable motorcycle test rig. So the experimental setup, as you can see in the second picture, involves a motorcycle which is secured using a front wheel chock and a rear wheel stand. Additionally, a computer and a 3D scanner are used to capture 3D data. And once the motorcycle is secured, the participant is asked to change into tight-fitting clothes, and anatomical markers are placed on their key anatomical joints, and the rider is asked to assume their usual riding position on it. And then a researcher comes in and 3D scans them on the bike. After the scans are done, the data is collected into a 3D rendering software, and it's processed in MATLAB under Vicon guidelines to generate the joint angles for the participant. So from our analysis, it showed that significant variation in pelvic tilt across different motorcycle types was observed. Specifically, sports motorcycles induced an average of anterior pelvic tilt of approximately 15 degrees more than the other three types, whereas all the other three types induced 11 degree posterior pelvic tilt. Consequently, all other lower limb joint angles significantly differed across different motorcycle types. Based on these results and 3D scans of the motorcycles as well, we constructed ergonomic triangles to represent rider posture. So this figure here shows 4 distinct triangles, blue representing adventure or dual sport bikes, red are the cruisers, green is the naked, and black is the sports. As you can see, there's a real differentiation between the 4 triangles, which illustrate the average handlebar and foot peg positioning of each of these motorcycle types. Now, using this data, we have now fabricated a fully functional adjustable motorcycle rig, and our plan for the future is to use that rig, but at a population level, to have a larger group of participants come in and sit on the rig and look at the variation across those participants. Now in phase 2, the main aim of this is to evaluate impact behavior of the motorcycle fuel tank. To do this, we started with the pilot study, which was performed using a controlled drop test rig, and we used only 4 fuel tanks for this. For the test setup, each fuel tank here is positioned securely in a sand-filled tub and was carefully aligned along with the anvil, which weighed approximately 12 kgs to simulate realistic pelvis impact. An accelerometer was mounted on top of the anvil to capture G forces during the impact, which was connected to the data acquisition unit. The test was initiated by releasing the anvil from a certain height so that it could achieve at least a speed of 20 kilometers per hour. Now, the results of the study show that the material properties and the design of the motorcycle fuel tank varied along with the energy absorption properties of it. Clearly, you can see that the tanks B and C showed better energy attenuation, which depict a naked KTM Duke and a sports motorcycle, which are 2 different kinds of bikes but showed similar energy absorption properties. Now, this pilot work was successful, so this paved a way for our bigger study, which will include 40 motorcycle fuel tanks and also a new motorcycle fuel tank mount to install each and every fuel tank so that we don't have to use the sand tip. Now, the outcomes from these studies, we aim to develop a comprehensive understanding of the rider, pelvis and the tank interaction to better understand pelvic injury mechanism across different motorcycle types because different motorcycles induce different postures. Through impact testing tanks, we hope to analyze how tanks material and design respond to impact with pelvis, providing insight into which tank feature may contribute to or help prevent injury. And finally, we'll use all this data to develop enhanced pelvic surrogates, either physical models or digital simulations that more accurately reflect real-world crash conditions. These improved surrogates will help support more realistic crash data and design safer motorcycles. And that's my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Anvay. Can I please get a round of applause for all our presenters tonight? It's a particularly challenging task to be asked to speak in front of a group such as this and to do it with 10 minutes and everyone keeping to time. It's certainly a bit of a challenge, so thank you very much. And it's testimony to Prasannah, who very much believed that road safety is part of a system. And I can see Assistant Commissioner Driver from the New South Wales Police. You always talked about the strands of the spaghetti, Mr. Driver, and that's very much the same as Prasannah and how everything's part of a system. So the fact that we had such a broad range of presenters here tonight is really very pleasing. I'm going to call upon some people who will give some heartfelt talks now about Prasannah. I'll start with Mr. Bernard Carlin, PSM.
Great, thanks very much. I've got to say that my memory of Prasannah in Hobart at the conference where he was honoured with the oration and his presence with the audience, of his influence on people and the amount of response that he had to his oration in terms of him being brave and taking risks and being out there actually challenging people to actually address the issues of trauma, which came from the heart. He really wanted to make a difference in people's lives, and he was making a difference. And as a somebody who was recognised at the conference in that way, I think it gave him as well great spirit about the fact that he was making a difference and that he was being acknowledged for that. And every interaction that I've ever had with Prasannah in his work that he was doing within the Centre for Road Safety was exactly that. He challenged all the time. He always stretched himself to learn more, to engage with people, to share his knowledge, to share his influence in a way which was really generous. Those times of those interactions with him always embodied that for me, that he was at his heart wanting to make a difference in the lives of people in order to reduce trauma on our roads and to share that and to learn with others. And so it's great to see this event here tonight, and we often reflect in the centre when we come across work that Prasannah has done that's made this great contribution that he's made which will last forever in the reduction of trauma on our roads. We often reflect on, when we come across that information, on the great contribution, the great friendships and the spirit that he imbued within our organisation and his contribution that he made. And so it's a great honour to have known him, and it's great to see that the memory and the approach that we're taking to also honouring people who are wanting to learn and share and to contribute to better road safety outcomes through their work in doing their PhDs is a fantastic connection back to the way in which Prasannah also did his work. Thanks, Vic.
Now to call upon Professor Brett Molesworth of University of New South Wales. Thank you, Professor.
So thank you, and let me apologise because I had to run in late, so apologies for running in late. So as mentioned, my name's Brett Molesworth. I'm a Professor of Human Factors and Aviation Safety here at UNSW. So welcome, and again I missed the introduction, but thank you again and welcome. It's an honour to host such an event. Prasannah was one of my PhD students, and so I got to know Prasannah over about 4 years, which was absolutely excellent. From my point of view, students provide an opportunity to learn, and we impart knowledge. Every student has a special characteristic that they bring. Prasannah, I recall fondly talking and having debates, discussions, both about experimental design and theoretical underpinnings. They seem to be the two areas Prasannah was really passionate about. So let me backtrack a little. I first came across Prasannah because I got a grant and I needed a student to work on this road safety project. I sent an email up to the psych unit, to the School of Psychology, and asked if they had any interested students or students who were finishing their honours and so forth. I think I ended up with 4 applicants, and I conducted interviews with all of those. Prasannah was the only one that came to the interview with knowledge about the topic. And that impressed me, and obviously the rest is history from that point of view. The discussions we have weekly meetings with all our PhD students. The discussions we had with Prasannah were always intellectual. They always relate to some theoretical component which challenged me as an academic but also challenged him too, which is really wonderful. I think for me, it's about the knowledge, and Prasannah's work, his whole ethos was about knowledge. And to that point, a couple of years ago, he reached out and said he would like to contribute back, put back within the system. And we employed Prasannah as what we call an industry expert, a postgraduate course facilitator. And he delivered a course in human factors and safety within our postgraduate program. So he started out here, built the knowledge quest in aviation as well as in road, and specifically to make a difference in road. And then he came back and fed it back to our postgraduate students in aviation. For those 4 PhD students that presented earlier, thank you very much. What you display is all what Prasannah was about. It's about knowledge, knowledge acquisition, and conveying that back to the industry per se. In other words, making a difference. There's a power in knowledge, and please use that wisely. So thank you, and thank you again, and we are proud to support this event, this ongoing event. So thank you yet again.
I think we've been told that we'll be doing this again, but next year, so I'll take that, it's fine. Dr. Joanne Bennett, thank you.
Well, thank you. Hi everybody, my name is Jo Bennett. I had the wonderful privilege of being one of Prasannah's closest research collaborators. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our journey together as researchers. But before we get into that, I want to tell you a little bit about a story, a book. There's a book by an author called Mitch Albom, and it's called The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. And the premise of this book is that throughout your life, there are 5 people who have the greatest impact on your life. And sometimes that impact comes from the most unremarkable of moments. And I can truly say that that's how it started with Prasannah. So Prasannah and I met in 2013 when our mutual friends decided to make a mixed netball team at Macquarie University. And they went, hey, Jo, do you want to come and play? I had had many years playing netball. Praz, 0. But he was like, I'm going to do it, and he was terrible. But it was a really good time. And so we met playing netball, we bonded, we became Facebook friends, but not once did we ever talk about what we did. And it wasn't until a second unremarkable moment where I was giving a presentation on driving simulation, and a friend took a photo of it and posted it on Facebook. And I got a message from Prasannah that went, "What do you do? I think we should talk." And it was this completely, innocuous post that a friend made that made us go, we might have something here. But by that time, he was off in the UK, and we never really got to talk beyond a 1 or 2 messages back and forth on Facebook. And then I got an invitation to a conference in Paris. And again, in a third unremarkable moment, I simply put that, I'm getting to go to Paris in July, woo! And Prasannah went, are you going to ICAP? And I was like, yes, I am going to ICAP. He's like, I'm going to see you there. And so in this third unremarkable moment, he and I met in Paris, we caught up over sushi, and we realised how much, we were done with French food by then, and we realised how much it was that we had in common and how much we could do together. So when he returned from the UK, I'd finished my PhD at Macquarie Uni, and I'd started working at the Australian Catholic Uni. And I'd gone from having all of these resources, this huge driving simulation lab that I led there, to having absolutely diddly squat. And I went to him, I don't know how to do my research here. And he went, well, we don't need a simulator. Maybe we just need a hazard perception test. And we went, okay, maybe I can do something with this. Now we knew Transport for New South Wales wasn't going to give us their test, so we had to make one ourselves. And we couldn't use his bright yellow car to be the car in our test, so instead we actually borrowed his mum's car, and we stuck a GoPro to the front of it, and we went driving around to create our own test. And we had these situations and we weren't just getting exactly what we wanted. And so he went, you get out. you step in front of the car. And I was like, are we road safety people right now? Is this going to happen? And he was like, yeah, it's going to be fun. And I can attest by the fact that I'm living and standing here today that Prasannah was a good driver, because he did not hit me, and we got the footage that we needed for our hazard perception test. Now, the development of that test we did with a student that then went on to do a literature review in hazard perception test methodologies, which then went on to be a number of different papers and to relationships with people all around the country in developing our understanding of hazard perception tests. And it is important to know that that work is currently informing work with the Austroads review of hazard perception tests, which I know is something that Prasannah agitated a lot for, that there's more we can do here and there's something we should do here. It's important to know that we didn't just write papers together, we didn't just do this work together, we built ideas and we built things that we felt this can make an impact. And Prasannah left academia, he went into doing more government work. But I got to stay in academia and I got to keep him connected to the research. And the ideas that we came up with, because of the conversations that we had, because of this early work that we did, have had huge ripple effects. And we now have a older pedestrian hazard perception training program that we're delivering with the AAA, the Australian Automobile Association, that will be available nationwide to improve the safety of older adult pedestrians. We also have a project using hazard perception and virtual reality to improve the safety of young Indigenous drivers in New South Wales. And the ripple effect of those conversations with Prasannah and the work that we did cannot be understated, because when I talk about this intervention for young Indigenous drivers, the impact that it has had is me being the only person at ACU who did road safety research, to building a smaller team, to building a bigger team, to hopefully having PhD students as a part of my team and postdocs, but also having some of the best research minds turn their attention to road safety. So on that Indigenous project, the #1 educational psychology researcher in the world is now doing research on road safety, something he's never done in his previous 75 years before. And that ripple effect cannot be understated. And so the ripple effect that he has had on myself, my career, the research that we've done is enormous. And that ripple effect is going to continue, because when he gave his speech at the conference in October last year, he said 3 words, and those 3 words stuck with me. They were post-crash care. My brain went, I can do something with that, because at ACU we have a lot of people who do work in who do allied health work, but aren't doing anything in post-crash care, and maybe we can. And so because of 3 words, he's sparked an idea which now has an entire faculty at the Australian Catholic Uni invested in doing work in this space and trying to improve our students doing work in this space. So when I think about the 5 people who I'm going to meet in heaven, I don't know who they're all going to be. But because of a series of unremarkable moments that has had an incredible ripple effect of impact, I know for certain that one of them will be him, and I absolutely can't wait to see him there. Thank you. Oh, you need this back, don't you?
I'd like to introduce David Wakon. He's part of the ACRS New South Wales chapter. Just make sure you stand in the batter's box.
All right. So the feelings that we've been experiencing over the last few months, the shock, the devastating loss, the deep sadness, so many more, very complicated ones. These are the feelings that Prasannah and many of you dedicated his life to producing and stopping people experiencing as a result of road trauma. He was a unique and wonderful human, just wholly committed to this cause, lived and breathed it. So Prasannah and I work closely at Transport for New South Wales for the last few years, speaking just about daily on everything road safety. Certainly heard a lot about hazard perception from him, particular topic of interest for him. But he'd often talk about what the ACRS meant to him, how it gave him the opportunity to do even more. How he fit it in his day, I don't know. But to engage more, to talk more, to speak about policy and community advocacy. He was always keen to draw every piece of knowledge out of the leaders and have those robust discussions with everyone. In early 23, he convinced me that for all these reasons I should jump into the chapter committee, and I've been there ever since for the last couple of years. And thanks to the New South Wales chapter and Mick for the opportunity to speak and share a bit of his ACRS journey with you this evening. Unsurprisingly, Prasannah contributed extensively to the work of the college since he joined as a member in 2018. He was the immediate past chair for the last 2 years, 2022 to 2024, of the New South Wales Chapter Committee, and he was also on the National Executive Council during that time. The 2 years before that, the deputy chair, heavily involved as well, and he was also involved in the Early Career Professionals Network as well. As an eternal academic, Prasannah was also heavily engaged in supporting the conference work, the Australasian Road Safety Conference every year, and since 2019 he was peer reviewing papers, and I think if you had a chance to have him review your paper, you'd probably get some good feedback. He was also an invited member of the conference scientific program in 2023 and for the 2025 Perth conference. He also chaired a session at the conference in 2023, and last year when I was going to Hobart for my Hobart for my first road safety conference, he said you should co-chair, and so I co-chaired. Good push from him. It was great, and I was fortunate to spend a lot of time with him last year at the conference, meeting a lot of people, and we'll always be grateful for that time. In his role in the chapter, and I guess more broadly, but as a chapter chair, he was always about bringing people into the road safety community. Who else can help me with this mission and this cause? And we were reflecting last week about him trying to bring people into the fold and into the college as members. And I'm someone who's immensely grateful for that impact that he's had on my career. He instigated and drove things. He was a big instigator of lots of different things. And one of the was liaisons between the New South Wales chapter and IPWEA, the Institute of Public Works Engineers, New South Wales Police and the NRMA as well, trying to rebuild those relationships when people change in different chapters and that. And he was obviously a great candidate for doing that. He also, when he was the chair, identified the regional road trauma trends as a real issue and wanted to do something about this. How can we get out in the regions and communicate to the people out there? And really wanted to host forums for road safety practitioners and the community as well as college members out there. And so that resulted in 2 forums in Newcastle and Wollongong in 2023, which attracted about 70 people, as well as media coverage for road safety in and the college. And he was also instrumental in the most recent forums that were down in Wagga and Orange. And we also had the Auditor General report saying regional road trauma needs a special look, and he was ahead of the curve on that one, trying to get out in the community and making things happen. Prasannah contributed and led the policy position, data and information needs for road safety, and contributed to about half a dozen parliamentary submissions and inquiries submissions. And I wrote the New South Wales e-micromobility submission last year with Prasannah constantly in my ear about what goes in. And here is this paper and this paper and this paper, and here we go, a stack of evidence to go in there. So very grateful for that, and that was also helpful for Mick and Tasha when they were there in person at the inquiry. All of this culminated in his win for the Young Leaders Oration Award at the Road Safety Conference in Hobart last year. He was so profoundly grateful for winning this. I remember speaking to John Crozier about how important it was that he got this recognition as well, just how well deserved it was. He called me ecstatically, absolutely buzzing, probably about 15 minutes after he got off the phone from Ingrid Johnston telling him he'd won the award, and don't tell anyone you've won the award. And he was over the moon. He thrived on it. He was so grateful. He was still tweaking his speech that day, speaking to people in the food line at the conference, picking their brains and testing his ideas out before he spoke to the gala dinner that night. In a testament to him, and as a commitment to his enduring legacy, the College of Road Safety future recipients of the Young Leaders Oration Award will deliver the Prasannah Prabhakharan Oration at the conference. It would be difficult, if not impossible, to find another young leader who contributed more to road safety and the college than Prasannah. He was such a true champion for the cause. Prasannah was many things to each of us. To me, he was a friend, a colleague, a mentor, a teacher, certainly, and I think I gave some of those things back to him over the last few years working together. And I know that there are many things that I will be doing to sort of live up to what Prasannah saw in me and in many of us, and missing him dearly for the collaborations that could have been. And I know many of you probably had lists of things that you could have been doing with Prasannah and what he wanted to do. You've probably done this over the last few months, but I'd encourage you, maybe on your way home tonight or over the next few days, to just pause and reflect on what Prasannah taught you that you might not have even realised at the time. I've taken a lot of lessons away reflecting over the last few months, and my experiences is that there's a few things you'll be able to list and take away and continue thinking about. My hope is that through tonight's event and continuing to discuss Prasannah and his legacy, that we have many more self-confessed road safety nerds emerge. It would be brilliant. I'm ever so slowly starting to count myself as one. Thank you.
I'd like to call upon the Prabhakharan family. Prakash, would you like to come up, Felice, if you come up and say a few words in response to what we've just heard.
Down the box. Good evening, everyone. My name's Prakash Prabhakharan. I'm Prasannah's incredibly proud brother. When we first learnt about tonight's event being planned by the New South Wales chapter of the ACRS, it wasn't lost on me just how significant it was for someone in death to have an event planned in their honour with such an incredible turnout. So thank you all so much for attending tonight. There's so many people that we want to thank for conceptualising and bringing this event together tonight and for their participation this evening. First, to the University of New South Wales, it's just so fitting that this event is taking place here tonight. From 2005, for 2 decades and for more than half of his short life, UNSW has been a place of huge significance for Prasannah. From learning to teaching as recently as last year to developing amazing friendships, this institution really shaped so much of who he was. Many hours were spent in room 210 of this very building during Prasannah's PhD year, which I was shocked to discover tonight no longer exists. But I remember it vividly. I have a lot of memories there. In fact, on the odd occasion I tagged along as well, often when Prasannah was trying to find people to rounding up participants for his simulator studies. By about 10 a.m. on most of those days, I was hitting up like, so is it lunchtime yet, or are we heading home? Or, but no, thank you to everyone that's here this evening from UNSW and to the university for hosting this event. Thanks so much. Such was Prasannah's affection for this wonderful institution that not a lot of people know. He even had the word scientia, Latin for knowledge, tattooed on the inside of his arm, a nod to the UNSW motto. It really meant so much to him, this place. Prasannah really did have an unquenchable thirst for knowledge, and you've heard that from so many people tonight. He didn't just love to learn, he loved to understand and challenge and explore the boundaries of what was possible. His thirst for knowledge meant that he was my go-to on almost everything. And in fact, my reliance on Prasannah probably bordered on laziness. You know, I reread a message that I sent him the other day from December when I was in the market for a new laptop. And having not done any meaningful research myself, I messaged him one work morning and I said, need a new laptop. What do you think about a Dell 5450? Doesn't need to be fancy. Also, what's a docking station? He wrote back to me, you know, I don't just know computers off the top of my head, but I'll have a look. I was probably almost disappointed that he didn't just know, but upon reflecting on his response to me this week, it highlighted a few things for me. You know, perhaps I'm biased. Well, I'm definitely biased, but I'm sure a few of you at least will agree that my brother was just a wonderful human being, always available to help and support, and equally a person who, if he didn't know the answer, he would absolutely pursue it. Yeah. To the PhD candidates that we heard from this evening, Prasannah's PhD really was the springboard into you know, his future research and professional career. So thanks to Greg, to Lyndall, Caitlin and to Anve for your presentations tonight. Prasannah loved being a researcher. The years he spent completing his PhD were some of the hardest years of his life, but he persevered. I'm sure you two are experiencing similar emotions and similar feelings, but I encourage you, and I'm sure you will stay the course. Thank you so much for giving up your time this evening to be here. To those that paid special tributes this evening to Prasannah, thanks Bernard for your kind words and kind and generous words. Prasannah thought incredibly highly of you. I recently came across a comment that he left for you, and it read, "If I've seen further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants, forever grateful for your unwavering support." On behalf of our family, we too are forever grateful to you. Thank you. I wanted to take the opportunity to publicly thank you and some of the key leaders at Transport for New South Wales. In the days following Prasannah's passing, we were incredibly appreciative of the genuine care and empathy you showed our family. So thank you, Bernard, to you, Louise and Ralston. Thank you so much. To Brett, the support you gave Prasannah throughout his PhD years was immeasurable. Thanks to both you and Julie Hatfield for the support, guidance and mentorship that you provided to Prasannah through his years at UNSW. Thanks. To Joe Bennett, Prasannah considered you a great collaborator, and he loved working with someone that had an equal amount of passion as he did. Thanks for being a great friend to him. I haven't forgot about our plans to catch up at one of Prasannah's favourite takeaway shops at which you'd both often meet. Thank you so much. And to David Wakeland, who I got the chance to meet out in the foyer earlier tonight. As I said to you earlier, I genuinely meant, you know, Prasannah spoke so highly of you to both Felisa and I. Thanks so much for your support for him. Finally, a huge thanks to the ACRS. Thank you, Anne, another major inspiration and mentor to Prasannah, to Ingrid, to Mick, the entire New South Wales chapter and the college for arranging this evening's event to honour my brother. The PhD Invitational really is a fantastic initiative, giving the opportunity for you know, future leaders and existing leaders within the road safety community to really showcase their work. We know that Prasannah would absolutely have taken a front row seat at an event like this. He would have loved to be here. Yeah. We've seen heartwarmingly through his passing how important he was to this college and to all his colleagues and friends here. As many of you know, Prasannah was named the 2024 Young Leaders Oration recipient in October. I should have assumed that would have been mentioned by now. But after his passing, we learnt from Ingrid, and as David pointed out, that the college was bestowing a further honour on him by renaming the oration in his memory. So our heartfelt and sincere thanks. You know, we realise and appreciate the significance of such a tribute, so thank you so much. Yeah. Tonight, on behalf of Prasannah, and the Prabhakharan family and our friends that are here this evening, I'd like to make a really special announcement. It's my great honour, and I'm the lucky one that gets to do this on behalf of our family. It's my great honour to announce a $5,000 bequest from Prasannah to the New South Wales chapter of the college. It was Prasannah's wish that the chapter would administer a scholarship to support early career road safety professionals in regional New South Wales to be able to attend the ACRS conference. So, Prasannah was important to you all at the college, but I hope that through this gesture, you all know just how equally important you were to him through your advocacy to make our roads safer. We feel incredibly privileged that we get to support Prasannah now to facilitate this gift to the college. We're very keen to get to know many of you. So, if you're able to, please do stick around and come and talk to any or all of our 10 strong contingent that's here this evening after the formal part of tonight. Just before I finish up, it would be remiss of me not to make a mention of a few other individuals. To Dave McTiernan, who I know is not here tonight, Duncan McRae, John Crozier, who I was really hoping to run into and meet this evening, and I was so lucky that I got to do that, and to Britta as well, and to Mike Regan, who is, as you mentioned, in Greece. Each of you, along with everyone I've mentioned tonight, provided Prasannah with unique insights and perspectives that he really valued deeply. Thank you from our family, and I will be, and we will be forever grateful to you all. Prasannah was genuinely and truly humbled that you considered him a peer and that you actually valued his opinion and his contribution. He really was humbled by that. Thank you all for working, collaborating with, and truly enriching Prasannah's journey. He genuinely cherished this community and all the incredible people within it. Tonight is such a testament to just how highly regarded Prasannah was. It's reminded me and validated me of some of the words that one of his dear friends said at his celebration of life earlier this year. And he said, most of us will become a memory, but Prasannah will be a legacy. So, thank you so much. Sorry. There you go.
Before you don't run away, Prakash, Dr Ingrid Johnson, our CEO, on behalf of ACRS New South Wales, just like to accept a gift to the family on behalf of us. That's a picture there of pretty much every chapter member for the last 5 or so years is pictured at least once in that collage. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well done. So I'd like to call on Professor Anne Williamson, the ACRS president and also an institution in this institution. And Anne's going to officially close proceedings. Just step onto the box and you can hold the mic there. Thanks, Anne.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Look, I'm not sure what to say. I've sat down this afternoon and thought I've only got a few words, and I'm actually already extending. I'm sorry, and I really needed to sort out, because I have so many things I want to say, and so many things that have already been said I would be saying too. But it hit me that I think there are 3 words that people keep saying about Prasannah, and that was enthusiasm, passion, and deep thinking. And I think that's something that everyone has been saying tonight. The fact that we had 4 speakers on road safety issues doing research on road safety, but diverse areas. I mean, could they have been more different, perhaps? And you know, it's really incredibly exciting to see all this wonderful new work that's going on. And I know that Prasannah would have really, I think we all know that he would have been here just, you know, buzzing with new ideas as a result of the work that you're all doing. And I congratulate you all, and I thank you very much for your presentations, because I'm itching to come and talk to you about some of the work you're doing. Look, Prasannah's contribution, he made a contribution, of that we all agree. And the family, I think you should be proud of him. We're all proud of Prasannah. We're all grateful to have been touched by him and his experiences. Look, he did research, he did policy, and his collegiality, his work with the college, which is a really important, whilst you get paid to do research and you get paid to do policy, people working for the college do it because they have the enthusiasm and the passion for road safety. And I think Prasannah really embodied that. And I think that, I mean, my feeling is that his contributions are definitely going to keep going on. And I mean, Joe mentioned to me just the other day that one of your papers has just come out, and you can see that there's lots more where we will be citing Prasannah's work, and it'll still be being produced. And I think his contribution with the young leader oration really served to be an aspiring, something it's meant to be for aspiring young leaders, and Prasannah was certainly that. And I think it's really telling us, and to all the young leaders, potential young leaders, people doing PhDs at whatever stage of our lives, it still shows us that, you know, trying to do better, trying to actually take road safety into do bigger and better things, and certainly improve our road safety statistics, which are sorely needed at the moment. But I think we should be trying to emulate an example of someone like Prasannah. And I think that enthusiasm, that passion and that deep thinking really is something that we all should be aspiring to, whether you're a young new leader or an oldie like me. I mean, it's certainly something that we should try and continue to do. And to my mind, I think Prasannah has thrown down a gauntlet about how to do road safety, and I really urge us all to pick it up and to carry it on, because I think there's lots more work to be done, and I'm sure that Prasannah will be there with us in one way, shape or form, and his contribution will continue on giving. Thanks very much. I'm just going to say one more thing, or two or three more things. Thank you very much to people, your presenters today. I've already done that. Thank you very much to everyone who's come. We have a really good audience here. And, you know, on a Thursday night after work, it is a big ask to come and do things like this. It's interesting and you know, I think it does spur the enthusiasm in all of us, but it's great that you all come. And I'd really like to sincerely thank the New South Wales chapter. I mean, I think the idea that you came up with for the Invitational, now I know where that came from, because I kept thinking golf. Great. And I think from the national ACRS group, I think thank you very much to the New South Wales chapter. You've done a really good thing here, and it'd be great to continue them. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Anne. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming tonight. Can I also thank Lauda, Kathleen and Vanessa from UNSW, who, without their assistance, this event simply wouldn't have occurred. Before we head to the foyer for some refreshments, next week is National Road Safety Week, and we also have the Australasian Road Safety Conference in Perth coming up later this year, so put those in your diaries. In closing, Prasannah did work very hard to grow the membership of ACRS, so for those who aren't members and for those who are watching this later, this is aimed at you. Please consider joining ACRS, because it is what Prasannah would have wanted. So good night, everyone. Thank you.